Honorable Mr. Justice P. Sadasivam, the Chief Justice of India, Shri Anil B. Diwan, President, Bar Association of India, Shri Soli Saurabhji, former Attorney General for India and Vice President, Bar Association of India, Shri K.N. Bhatt, former Additional Solicitor General of India and Vice President, the Bar Association of India, Honorable Justice Ramanna, Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, other judges past and present, and Mr. Falinariraman, Mr. Ashok Desai, Mr. Lalit Bhasin, Mr. Suren Desai, all the senior office bearers of the Bar Association of India and the executive committee members, leaders of the bar, delegates, and most of all, the future lawyers, because of whom this hall is brimming with energy. I welcome you all to this inaugural ceremony of the Rule of Law Convention 2013, which has the running theme of strengthening institutions to meet current challenges. Friends, two themes primarily dominate this conference, and I'll just in a minute describe why we have chosen those topics, because as we all know, that from a very robust era of economic growth, we are witnessing slowdown in the economy, and though some external factors may well be responsible for that, but at the same time, there is a little disenchantment globally with the so-called India story. One of the prime reasons for that, and one of the reasons, if not the reason, is our institutions have not been strengthened with the same zeal as the economy has been opened. There is a certain degree of disenchantment after long periods of waiting and a perception things don't move in India. While in the beginning, and it is my view that in 1993 when the first judgment in the judge's case came, it also sent down a very robust message to the world at large that Indian institutions are going to be very, very independent, including that of the judiciary. The other peg on which the new economic scenario was built was to have similarly very independent regulatory bodies. Because what was happening, that big swathes of policy making which were under the purview of the parliament, under the light of the sunlight of scrutiny by the parliament, were shifted to the so-called independent regulatory bodies. But somehow the system has not worked as expected. The kind of transparency and robustness such institutions should have shown has not happened. And that is one of the prime reasons of the confidence receding. So that's why we are discussing primarily the topics from the purpose of ascertaining what are the global best practices, where do we stand, and what is to be done to strengthen the institutions so that the current challenges are met. Now, without much ado, I will request Shri Soli Saurabhji to come and give the welcome address.
Honorable Chief Justice of India, Shri P. Sadasivam, Anil Diwan, President of the Bar Association, Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, Ramana, office bearers of the Bar Association of India, my fellow lawyers, seniors and juniors, other dignitaries in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. I think I must congratulate the Bar Association of India for organizing this Rule of Law Convention. Rule of law has conveyed different meanings to different people at different times. And its promiscuous use at various seminars and conferences led the constitutional historian Ivor Jennings to say it is an unruly horse. Well, it's not an unruly horse. Actually, rule of law is not merely a ritualistic slogan. In essence, it embodies, or rather it entails a commitment to certain values and principles. Now, only three important aspects of the rule of law. One important aspect is that any action to the prejudice of any person must have the sanction of law, must have legislative authority. A police commissioner can't ban a play or prohibit a meeting or send the departmental circulars. Even fundamental rights, which are not absolute, as you all know, can be restricted pursuant to a law. And actually, the rule of law in that sense is the golden thread which throughout our Constitution. 19.2, Article 25, Article 265, no taxation without authority of law, Article 300A, no deprivation of property without authority of law. So it is really a golden thread which runs through our Constitution. Now, another component, and this is very important, if you don't have legislative authority for your action in support of your action, it becomes whim, it becomes caprice. And that's the importance of the rule of law. So on the contrary, it's not an unruly horse, it will prevent unruly lawlessness by functionaries and wielders of power. The other important component is basic tenet, that however high you may be, the law is above you. Now that's very important because that means you may be the Prime Minister, you may be the Speaker, you may be the Archbishop, you may be the Shankaracharya, you may be the Imam, you may be a judge. They are all equally subject to the rule of law. And that's a very important principle. And I'm glad to say that our Supreme Court has vigorously enforced that principle in its judgments. You know, you're talking of human rights, but experience testifies that flouting of the rule of law has led to horrific violations of human rights. And there's an essential link between human rights and the rule of law. And you'd be interested to know that in the third preamble, to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, there is a mention that rule of human rights should be protected by the rule of law in UDHR itself. Now, one important aspect which you may consider in your deliberations, and about which I've thought, but haven't got a very satisfactory answer, is that don't confuse rule of law with rule by law. In other words, the Nazis justified their atrocious practices by pointing to a law enacted by the Nazi regime. In South Africa, the racially discriminatory policies were sought to be justified by pointing out that we have a law. So the mere existence of the law is not necessary. There must be a core component to that law. And the minimum prerequisite of that law must be that it guarantees and protects the basic human rights of people everywhere, and protects it by an independent independent judiciary, assisted by an independent legal profession. That's where we come in. That's where the lawyers come in. That's we have an obligation to see the rule of law is maintained in all circumstances, in all cases. And actually, I would like to say only one thing. Please don't fall for this silly fallacy. Oh, it's a Western concept. It's a European concept. It's nothing of the kind. There's nothing Western, Eastern, Northern, Southern. It has a global reach, a global dimension, and the rule of law, I think, has been best described by one of our greatest judges, Justice Vivian Bose, by saying it is the heritage of all mankind because this belief in the human rights and human dignity of all beings everywhere in the world. Well, only these are the only preliminary observations I have made, and I wish this seminar every success, and I look forward to the very vigorous, provocative, and interesting discussions at the seminar. Thank you very much, and hope you enjoy yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Saurabhji, for virtually putting the foundation for the discussions ahead. And now I will request our President, Mr. Anil B. Diwan, to come and give his presidential address. Mr. Diwan.
Honorable Chief Justice of India, Honorable Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, Justice Shah is now a member of the bar rather than the bench, distinguished Vice Presidents and Office Bearers of the Bar Association of India, our President Emeritus Fali Nariman, who is here with us today, fellow lawyers. Some of you have come from the south, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, some from the west, Gujarat, Rajasthan, some from Goa. But we have also got some people coming from the northeast, as far as Manipur and Guwahati. So I welcome you all, friends and delegates. And of course, I won't forget the young members of the bar, the future lawyers, who will share the responsibility of keeping the rule of law alive. Because we are on the way out, you are on the way in, and we look forward that you will imbibe the spirit of the rule of law, which means an independent judiciary. Last year in April, we had the first Rule of Law Convention of the Bar Association of India, and it was inaugurated by no less than the late Chief Justice of India, Sri J.S. Verma. Unfortunately, he passed away on 22nd of April, 2013, this year. I'm sure if he had been alive, he would have participated and vigorously participated in this particular convention. The second blow which our legal fraternity suffered was the passing away of Justice Chinnappa Reddy. He passed away, I believe, on 13th of April this year. He was one of the trio, Justice Krishna Iyer, Justice Bhagavati, and Justice Chinnappa Reddy, who really gave voice and gave a direction to public interest litigation, particularly for the underprivileged classes. So I also give my tribute to Chinnappa Reddy, who was a great stalwart on the Supreme Court bench. Our Supreme Court has given a very compact description of the rule of law. And I quote, "Rule of law is a basic feature of the Constitution which permeates the whole of the constitutional fabric and is an integral part of the constitutional structure. Independence of the judiciary is an essential attribute of the rule of law. Independence of the judiciary is an essential attribute of the rule of law. Now, what is the ground reality today in India which concerns all of us and which has impact on the rule of law in the country? So first, let us see the ground realities. The economy is in distress, the rupee is tumbling down, you can't get a kg of onions without paying a very fancy price. So we are economically in a very distressed situation. A large number of legislators who are the protectors and the lawgivers, and this is a particular estimate made by the Association for Democratic Reforms.